A, B want to grow bigger legs. A trains legs once a week. That's a total of 48 sessions per year. B does the same 48 sessions, but they would train legs every single day. And then they would take the rest of the year off. Now, who do you think is going to grow the bigger and stronger legs at the end of the year? Of course, given the fact that they share the same height, the same genetics, the same diet, they're basically identical twins. Probably A, right? Now, why is that? Whilst A trains legs only once a week, they give their legs chance to rest. And on every session, they probably go a bit harder than the previous session by progressively overloading, adding reps or weights. Now, A would be the equivalent of the person that learns new concepts or solves problems by switching back and forth between the focused mode of thinking and the diffuse mode of thinking, which is the subject of today's video. So, what are the focused and diffuse mode of thinking? Starting with the more obvious one. The focused mode of thinking is when we concentrate intensely on something. This is when your prefrontal cortex starts sending signals along the neural pathways to connect ideas that are directly related to the problem or the thing that you're dealing with. The diffuse mode of thinking is when your focused attention is turned off. This is when your brain explores broader neural connections and looks at problems and things from a different angle. So why do we need to learn about the focused and diffuse modes of thinking? Well, starting with the obvious one, we have been told all our lives to focus on the exam, the book, the problem at hand since we were kids, which is very important when it comes to solving problems or learning new concepts. But equally, the diffuse mode of thinking is very important, but we're not really taught about that. The diffuse mode of thinking will let your brain look at stuff in a new way. It will help your brain connect ideas and integrate the new knowledge with what you already have in your arsenal. It also explains why sleeping on it is often a good advice when it comes to solving tough problems. This also explains why ideas sometimes hit you when you're about to sleep, when you're taking a shower, or when you're walking, for instance, when you're not actively thinking about the problem or the thing that you want to solve. But in a matter of fact, diffuse mode of thinking is also very important for creative thinking and imagination. And a very good example of this would be the surrealist painter Salvador Dali. This guy used to tap into the diffuse mode of thinking by sitting in a chair, holding keys in his hand above a metal plate. And once he starts to drift into the first phases of sleep, his hands will relax to the point that the keys will fall on the metal plate, which will wake him up. And then he would jump out to start sketching the bizarre stuff that he came up with. So how do we use the focused and diffuse modes of thinking in order to solve problems or learn new stuff? Starting with the more obvious one, focusing. I'm just going to give you a very simple brain dead way that you can follow in order to try to focus on the problem or the thing that you're trying to learn. Say you're a student and you have a chapter that you want to understand and study. I want you to be very specific about what you're going to study. Pick a time frame and a space frame that are very specific. For instance, tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., I'm going to study. I'm going to start studying and I'm going to set a timer for 1 hour. During that time, you're not allowed to have notifications on. You're not allowed to have your phone with you. You're not allowed to eat any bullshit food. You're not allowed to have anyone around. You're not allowed to listen to music. You're not allowed to do shit. Cut the bullshit. Just study. You have to focus on that thing intensely. Once you finish your study bout, you can take a break. Now, for instance, I do go make coffee, take a piss, do whatever, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, I take a break and then I come back. When you come back to study again or to focus on that thing again, you will feel somewhat refreshed. You take a break and you come back and it feels magical. However, when it comes to the diffuse mode of thinking, we tap into that another time of the day, let's just say. When you're walking, you're sleeping, you're taking a shower, you're training, that's when you get into the diffuse mode of thinking, for you're not actively thinking about that thing. So many psychologists, scientists, authors throughout history, so many of them loved to work. And I actually think that this is one of the best ways that you can use to tap into the diffuse mode of thinking. Now, the not so recommended ways of trying to get into the diffuse mode of thinking are eating bullshit food, playing video games, scrolling on social media, doom scrolling. These are all bad ways to get into the diffuse mode of thinking. If you really want to do that, you can probably do that at night. But between your bouts of focus, when you are studying in the morning and you want to take a break for 5 minutes, there are some people that would say, yeah, just apply the Pomodoro technique, focus for 25 minutes and then take 5 minutes break. And during that 5 minutes, you can just refresh your mind with some social media. That's bullshit. Anyone who tells you that, that's bullshit. That's one of the worst advice out there. When you're focusing, between your focused bouts, you don't need and you don't want to actually hijack your brain's energy and capacity and ability to get into the flow state or focus on the stuff that you're doing by doom scrolling, for instance, or checking Instagram for 5 minutes. Just finish the goddamn bouts and the studying and the work. And then once you finish your shit, at night maybe, you can eat that big bowl of pasta and check Instagram and watch the movie or do whatever, okay? Now that being said, just like when it comes to muscle growth, real learning happens between the bouts of focus when you're recovering. So you have to push the focus on the thing that you're trying to solve or study, and then give yourself the time to get into the diffuse mode of thinking. But it's also important to specify the way with which you're going to get into the diffuse mode of thinking. That being said, I hope you liked the video. Hit the like button, drop a comment down below, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.